Thank you for joining us for today's school board meeting. It's going to be a little bit different than the usual because we have budget amendments to go over. So, on that note, let's jump into the public hearing for the fiscal year 2024. At this time, I'd like to open the floor up to public comment. And Barb, if you would be our first public comment on the budget. Thank you.
Comments. Give you around here to the podium. So, well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I would first of all like to apologize for my attire. I do understand that Wolverine colors are red. It is physically impossible for me to wear red during budget season or audit season, so I will just apologize in advance, black and white, because everything must balance. So that's why you see me in black and white today. So the first order of business tonight is just to amend the FY24 school year budget. That's the school year that we're just now finishing, and the reason that we need to amend it is because we received considerably more revenue than we had anticipated receiving last year. And with that, we also purchased some things that we needed to purchase and rewarded our much deserving teachers with a little bit of money. So just wanted to go over those two things on the amended budget. We initially budgeted on 74 units. We were funded at the state level at 76 units, which is about $200,000 additional revenue. And then just about 30 days ago, the state found that they had additional monies that, because of the change in the way the districts were funded from enrollment to average daily attendance, the state wound up with more money, and so they did a supplemental distribution to schools, which was a $500,000 distribution. Last year's budget actually was a deficit budget, spending $300,000 of the fund balance. The additional revenues that we've received from the state, both for the additional support units that we had as well as that additional revenue, put us in a position to not use any of that fund balance this year. So the $400,000 that was remaining from that we're using to purchase curriculum this year, as well as give the teachers and classified staff a very well-deserved bonus. Support units are based on who our teachers are and how many of our students they are teaching. So this really is their money. So Ms. Dickerson made a special payroll, and all of our staff received bonuses on this Monday. So very pleased to announce that. But those are the two primary changes to the fiscal year 24 budget. Additional revenue that was utilized to cover some needed expenses of the district. Also included in that is we are seeing the end of our COVID or ESSER funds, and we wanted to use every penny of those dollars and not be responsible for giving anything back. So we use those monies for salaries this year, and they're not quite enough to end the year's required salary amounts for those individuals that were paid from COVID. So that's where another little bit of those dollars were spent. So, and that's really the only amendments that we had to FY24. Questions for me?
Any questions?
Yes. And Mr. Chairman, I don't need to say yes, you do. So if we have somebody from the audience.
Go ahead.
Just a quick question. The COVID funds, since those aren't there anymore, what are you replacing?
And all that will be covered in the FY24 budget, but we will use general funds from the state.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If I may make one suggestion, when we go ahead and make comments, especially from the audience, if we could announce who we are and what zone we're from, that way we have an indication of where we're coming from, so we have a good indication. I appreciate the question, Barb. Thank you for the answer. Anybody else? Yes.
Hey, I'm in Andrea's zone. I know that. I don't know what zone it is. But hey, board, thank you for the little bonus, for the bonus check. Got that in the mail today. Just wanted to say thank you.
No other questions? Thank you, Barb. All right, well, seeing that we have no further questions on the amended fiscal year 24, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment section of this amended budget 24, and we'll go into our action item of considering approval of the amended fiscal year 24 budget.
I would make a motion that we accept the amendment of the 24 budget as explained.
Seconded. The motion has been made by Mel and seconded by John to accept it as presented. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? It is unanimous. That brings us to our second public hearing of the night. This is for fiscal year 25 budget. And at this time, I will open for public hearing. And Barb, if you would, public comment, I should say. And Barb, if you would once again begin us out with our public comment for fiscal year 25.
Alrighty. Well, the first thing that I'd like to start out with is a congratulations to Mr. Doolin, to the board, and to the staff of Weiser School District. Passing a levy, the magnitude of the levy that was passed this year, is a huge vote of confidence from our community to the work that you all do. It's also a challenge and an obligation to make sure that we spend the money exactly as our community, we've promised our community that we would. So congratulations, this is a very new board and a first-year superintendent, and that is a huge vote of confidence from our community. So my thank you to all of you as well. So let's see here, as we start looking at this. Okay, so this is going to be everybody's lesson, and this is where you may have to jerk me off the stage because I absolutely love talking about the budget. And the thing that I love most about the state of Idaho, whether or not you agree with the amounts that they give us for funding, which none of us will ever believe are sufficient, the mannerisms in which they calculate how much they are going to give us, I will always 100% support. All of our funding is based on our two most critical assets, the children we teach and the wonderful teachers that teach them. So two most important things in our lives are what all of our money from the state is based on. So we'll start with just a little bit about our students. What you see in front of you right here is this year's net enrollment. What is highlighted on there is the numbers of kids that are going to be going into the grades next year. Our funding is based on average daily attendance and the number of students that we have, and there's a different divisor, for lack of a better word, based on the age of the student that we're educating. So who we educate, how many we educate, and who is educating them are the three pieces of the funding mechanism from the state of Idaho. So from this you can see we will have 279 first through third graders. On the next slide you'll see why that number is important. 4 through 6 we'll have 323 students, and in the secondary level 7 through 12 we're expecting 738 kids, and at our alternative school we're expecting 14 kids. So Mr. Doolin, if you take us to the next slide. So the reason those numbers were important, we average 95% attendance. So each one of those numbers from the previous page is broken down onto this page from an average daily attendance. And you'll see over here I have a unit divisor on kindergarten. So I'm expecting 100 kindergartners next year. We had 80 students enroll in the kindergarten roundup, and we typically get another 25% that actually show up in the fall. So the budgeted number that we're using for students for next year is 100 kindergartners at 95% attendance. It says I'm going to have average daily attendance of 95. The unit divisor is what creates my support unit. So 40 is how many students the state says, how many kindergarten students the state says generates one funding unit. So with 95 students in average daily attendance, we will receive just shy of 2.4 support units for those students. It's almost a 1-to-1 ratio when you start looking at it for teachers. So this says that I need 2.4 kindergarten teachers. We have 5. Where does the rest of that money come from? The supplemental levy that you guys just passed for us. So that those other 2.5 teachers are going to be paid out of those funds. So that's where that comes from. Same thing when you come to, the reason they're broken out into the grade levels that they are is because that unit divisor is different. Grades 1 to 3, the state says they're going to fund us 1 full support unit for every 20 students in average daily attendance, which means grades 1 through 3, I have just a little over 12 support units being generated there. The same thing for grades 4 through 6, but they say that my unit divisors only is up to 23, saying that it takes fewer people to teach that middle-aged group. We may or may not disagree with that. We have more teachers than what the state says they will fund us, and that's because we don't necessarily agree with those numbers coming from the state. When you get to the secondary level, you'll see that unit divisor falls all the way to 16. I need at least 1 teacher for every 16 students that we have. And that's because when you get to the secondary level, you have options of classes that people are going to take. You have the electives. You get to the seniors in high school. You may have 35 kids in an English class and 12 in your calculus class. You may have 15 kids in chemistry and 35 kids in freshman English. So it's not the number of students that are in the class, but that divisor gives us the opportunity to offer all of the electives that we offer, the music, the band, the CTE courses, and all of those kinds of things. Having that smaller unit divisor gives us that option of offering those other electives. We do, the numbers that you see down here under exceptional child is our special education students. The state recognizes that it costs us a little bit more money to educate our special education students. This is a statutory adjustment to ADA. It has absolutely nothing to do with our actual special education population. It's just a statutory adjustment that we make. So there's an additional 5.5 units that we get to support our special education students. And then our alternative high school generates 1 unit, and our summer school, I'm projecting that it will generate 2 units, giving us a total of 75 funding units. Okay? And Mr. Doolin, if you go to the next slide, I'll talk about the next piece. So this is actually what we have received from the state to date for this year's budget. Remember I told you in our amended budget that we budgeted on 74, but we're actually getting paid on 76. And there's a number underneath, there's a word underneath that number that says protective. So, and I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit, but this is what we actually received this year. So we had discretionary monies, we had salary-based apportionment, and all of those things are based on that support unit calculation right there. So that's how it actually comes out to be a check to us from the State Department of Ed. So next slide, please. And this is that the other equally most important piece of how the state funds us. You may remember seeing in the newspaper in the 2014-15 school year that the legislature changed their funding mechanism for schools. They went to a career ladder versus an index for teachers. The index used to be the number of years you taught and how many credits you had earned. So there was no evaluation piece that was associated with that. There were no standards that were included in that. If you were here another year, you got a 3.75% increase in your salary, period, end of story. If you got 24 credits, you moved over a column, so you could get 7.5% increase regardless of what you'd done in the classroom. In 14-15, the state legislature decided that that was not the right way to fund teachers, so they established residency rungs, which are much like a doctor's residency. Somebody's, mentoring that teacher, getting them along, and all those kinds of things. So those are the R1s, 2s, and 3s that you see on that career ladder placement. And again, this is not the salary schedule that we use to pay our teachers. This is the state's funding mechanism. So once somebody has been in residency for 3 years, they have the opportunity to become a professional teacher. And that's what the P stands for, is a professional. So somebody who is in their 4th year of teaching and their evaluation shows that they are proficient and 50% of their students have met the goals that were established, they become a professional teacher. And so they move on that next rung. And they are paid, even in the Weiser School District. That is our salary schedule for those P1s. And so those are, as you step down, then you'll see the next grouping is the advanced professional. So this is somebody who was taught for at least 8 years, is distinguished in domains 2 and 3 of their evaluation, and their students are meeting 75% of the goal. So there is an evaluation piece that's put into that that the state legislature has felt was very critical. The numbers that you see over there on estimated FTE by cohort, those are where I have projected our teachers will be on the placement for next year. The dollar amounts that you see in the next blue column, titled 24-25 salary-based apportionment with the additional 6359, is the dollar amount that's assigned to that rung of the career ladder. The last column on there is merely the multiplication of the number of people on that rung times the dollar amount that that rung equals. And then when you total up that whole column on the bottom, you divide that by the total number of teachers that we have to get an average. That average is the number that comes over that's multiplied by our support units that creates our funding. So, Mr. Boo, if you click to the next slide, please. So up in the very top corner, that's in very small print, you'll see that it says 74 units. Our support unit calculation says that I should have 75 units. Remember that little protected word underneath our 76 units? Years ago, the state put in an insurance plan that for schools who may suffer significant decreases in attendance, you've already hired your teachers. Typically, we hire our teachers in the April-May timeframe. And then, like the year that Treasure Valley Classical opened, in our surrounding districts, not so much for us, but in our surrounding districts, they lost 150 to 200 kids. They hired their teachers in April, not knowing what that impact was going to be, and that's significant. You're looking at 7 or 8 funding units at $120,000 a piece. You're looking at $1 million reduction in their funding. So those units are protected that nobody's going to lose more than 3% of the funding that they received last year. So everybody has to give a little bit into the pool to level out the impact of decreased funding to all schools. Our estimated contribution to that insurance pool is 1 funding unit. And so that's why we budgeted on 74 units in this. So as you look across there, the numbers that are in red down underneath the peach colored line item, those are our teachers' average salaries and our counselors' average salaries. They're multiplied by the number of support units we're allowed to have to come down to that bottom number in the corner there that tells you how much money we're going to receive based on our salary-based apportionment. And then in the center, in that square box in the center, the state also funds us based on the number of units that we have for our PERSI contribution and also for our Social Security. So salary-based apportionment is the salary piece of it. Benefit apportionment is the taxes and the statutory retirement requirement that we have to pay. Those are the pieces that the state pays towards benefits. That's not a health benefit tabulation right there. So 74 units generates 83 support units for our teachers. So we should have 83 teachers. We have 93 and a half. So that's where our 2.5 kindergarten teachers come from, and also where our other teachers come from that are going to offer our electives and all of those kinds of things, and it's what our supplemental levy helps pay for, and also what some of our discretionary money helps pay for. We have more teachers than the state funds. So discretionary dollars and so general fund dollars have to be used to pay that statutory requirement for PERSI and for Social Security. Okay. So Mr. Boone, if you want to click to the next slide. This is what I call my summary document, and so this is all of those pieces of everything. So the state has something that they call our discretionary funding, and that's the piece that we pay for our health benefits from. It's where we pay our utilities, it's where we buy paper, and it's where we pay all of that extra staff that's not funded by salary-based apportionment comes out of that discretionary revenue. So next year's discretionary revenue is our number of units. That's our best 28 weeks of attendance. Typically, our first reporting period is our best attendance reporting period. And then throughout the year, we're in school for 37 weeks. So at the end of the school year, the state goes through a tabulation and calculates what our support unit was for our best 28 weeks. So we get to throw out 9 weeks that weren't great. You know, this next year won't be as big of an issue where we have the full week of Thanksgiving off. But when we were only going to school 2 days during the week of Thanksgiving, that was a horrible week of attendance. Guaranteed you were going to throw that one out of your best 28 weeks. The first week of October has historically been a bad week of attendance because it's the opening of hunting season. So that's one that has historically been thrown out as well. But that's why you see that discretionary unit based on the 73 units versus the 74, because it is on our best 28 weeks, and we typically do lose one funding unit within that. So all this is a summary of all the pieces and parts of everything we get on one page. And so you come down to the bottom, and $11.9 million is how much money we will receive from the state of Idaho to fund the Weiser School District general operating budget for next year. Mr. Jordan, if you want to click to the next one. What are we going to do with all the money? Well, as we just talked about on the salary piece of it, 89.5% of all of our expenses go to salaries and benefits. Teachers did not see a huge increase this year. We were very fortunate to be able to give large increases last year. This year, teachers saw $400, $700, depending on where they were on the salary schedule. Not a lot of money, which is another reason that we were really excited to be able to do the bonuses that we were able to do with the excess money this year. Remember, with teacher contracts, you could never pay somebody less the next year than what they earned this year. So we couldn't add those dollars to their contract because the supplemental distribution that we received from the state was a one-time distribution. We won't get that money again. So we couldn't permanently add it to their contracts because they don't have any way of sustaining that. So really excited to be able to give that out this year, and hopefully, you know, the state will have more money and that next year's increases will be bigger. But for right now, 89.5% of all of our expenses are going to salaries and benefits. We classified staff received on average a 2% increase. Our Blue Cross benefits did go up 7.8%, so you see a fairly dynamic increase in that area. But that is the largest piece of our budget. Purchase services, you know, that's an odd term for a lot of people who don't work with it every day, but it's really those things that we contract with third parties for. A lot of our curriculum is delivered digitally now, and so that's a license rather than a product that we hold in our hand, and so that license is a purchased service. We pay for maintenance on our copiers. That's a purchased service. Our student information system is an online system. That's a purchased service. When we pay our accountant, when we pay any attorneys, all of those things are purchased services. And so that's what that line consists of there. When you keep coming on down, supplies and materials are exactly that. It's everything we need to educate our kids on a daily basis, from paper to toilet paper, all of our cleaning supplies, bus fuel, all of those things are considered supplies. This year's supply line item includes buying a truckload of paper. It's considerably cheaper to buy 842 boxes of paper in one truckload and have it delivered than it is to buy onesie-twosie packages at Staples or even buy a pallet load. Typically, when you buy the truckload, they waive the shipping fees, and we do have a place to store it. We do monitor the inventories of that so it's not wasted, and a truckload of paper will last us 2 years. So supply line item includes that. Capital outlay, you'll rarely see a lot of money in the capital outlay in the general fund, and that's because we transfer that over to our plant facilities line item. And it's going to, the capital that you see on this side is if a school needed to buy new desks or some of those kinds of things, computer upgrades and some of those kinds of things may come out of general fund, but purchasing a new copier. But the major things that we do, like new concrete over at the middle school, those things would come out of the plant facilities line item, which if you looked at the budget that's in the paper is part of all of that, all other funds. So the transfer out amount this year is $750,000. It includes the $400,000 that we expect from the supplemental levy to repair the track. Even though the track will cost us about anywhere from $800,000 to $1 million. Remember, our supplemental levy is $400,000 each year for 2 years, and that's how we get that $800,000 to pay for that track cost. So that's part of that. The other piece of that transfer out is we do keep track of our alternative schools separately, and so we transfer those funds out of the general fund into an other fund for them so that we see exactly how they're tracking with their expenses. And there are a couple of other line items. Drivers training periodically needs a little bit of support from the general fund and those kinds of things. So that's what that transfer out piece is. And you'll see it is a line item in and of itself, which is a good and a bad thing in my humble opinion. Insurance costs increased dramatically this year. And there's 2 reasons for that. We're up, a good 50%. We were right at $100,000 last year. Our premium's going to be $150,000 this year. That's twofold. One, we all learned a valuable lesson from Highland High School over in Pocatello. Their cafeteria burned down. Their insurance money came in and it was less than half of what they needed because the value that they had placed on that building did not rebuild it. So we have revalued our buildings to be a cost of replacement, which is a huge portion of that increase that you see there. And then also as a whole nationwide insurance premiums have increased because of tornadoes and fires and floods and those kinds of things that we've seen happen nationally. So, and Highland High School burning this year didn't help any of us. That goes in there as a huge expense to that insurance pool. And we all, reap the benefit of being a consortium and then also suffer the downfalls when we do have a large claim against the pool like that. But that's why insurance has increased as much as they did. So let's see, what have I got next? Fund balance. Okay, we talked a little bit about fund balance in the first place when we said that we didn't have to eat into last year's fund balance. And if you saw what was in the newspaper, we started this year with 2.8 million. We'll end this year with 2.8 million, so we came across flat. And then we'll start the 25 school year with the 2.8 million. And then based on all of these expenses that we have, we will eat into that. I am presenting a budget to you that does take some of that fund balance. I'm projecting to end the year with a $2.3 million fund balance. So we'll eat about $500,000 of that fund balance. And the biggest part of that is, and I'll have the next slide is about the $6 million that we'll receive from the state of Idaho for the school modernization funds. But what a lot of people don't realize, that's a 10-year bulk amount. And it's not all new money to the Weiser School District. We were receiving $200,000 every year for facilities needs. And now that's being rolled into that $6 million. So of the $6 million that we hope to receive, only $4 million of it is additional revenue. And that $200,000, we were able to use that to pay for salaries. And we're not able to use that as part of the school modernization $6 million. So because the decision that we made this year was to utilize a little bit of our fund balance and have it be that year that kind of levels everything out, the COVID dollars are gone. Our school facilities monies are gone as far as how they help the maintenance and operations budget, that general fund. Those dollars are gone. Rather than having a knee-jerk reaction to what that means for us, we wanted to stay the status quo, keep our class sizes small, keep all of our teachers employed, and utilize a little bit of that fund balance. So this year is that year of review. What can we cut? Will the state come back in with additional funds for us? And so instead of making a knee-jerk reaction this year, we've chosen to present to you a budget that does use a little bit of that fund balance so that we can maintain status quo and really figure out what it means at the end of the year, because we can afford to do that with the fund balance. And that's my next question up there. Is our fund balance sufficient? At $2.3 million, we are right on the cusp. Our auditor recommends that we have at a minimum 3 months of operating expenses. At the 2.8 million, we're right at that 3 months of operating expenses. We spend a little over $900,000 every month just on salaries. So payroll runs about that much each month. So we will be a little bit under that with the fund balance where it is, but it still is a healthy fund balance. The other reason to maintain a really healthy fund balance is, you may remember last year, Senator Horman, who's the JFAC chairman and also on the Senate Ed Committee, or excuse me, on the the Legislative Education Committee. Right now, schools receive 50% of our funding in August. And we do that because there's a lot of startup costs at the beginning of the year. We need to buy our curriculum and all of those kinds of things. We need to pay for that truckload of paper. And so we've been getting 50% of our distribution in August. Representative Horman's recommendation was that we only receive 20% in that August payment and then have 20% payments throughout the year. Fortunately, that legislation did not pass in '24. It did not come out in committee in '25, but we're being told that it's gathering momentum and it may change as we look at FY26. So our fund balance has to be sufficient to carry us for payroll, because a 20% distribution in August won't meet our payroll needs. So we've got to maintain a healthy fund balance just from a cash flow standpoint so that we can meet those payroll needs should the state decide to change our distribution mechanism. So that's why so yes, it is sufficient, so in my humble opinion. $6 million, the elephant in the room. So we're excited to talk with you about this. Again, it's only $400,000 or $4 million new money to the Weiser School District. And it is the hope behind the legislation, even though if you look at the front page of the legislation, and the purpose of the legislation was to remove funding from the state level and move it back to the local level so local taxpayers could make a decision on whether or not they were going to pass levies. That was actually the purpose of the bill. It does relieve our taxpayers from some of the burden, but it's not enough to build a school building. If we were to build a new high school, it's about $65 to $70 million. $6 million doesn't even do anything for us. The $6 million comes with a lot of strings attached to it. It is for student-occupied buildings only. It cannot be used on parking lots. It cannot be used on the track. It cannot be used on sidewalks. It is underneath the roof of a student-occupied building. So it took the $2 million away from us that we could use for sidewalks and made it to where we can't. So that's some of the trade-off that we see in using that fund balance as well. But the $6 million, it is a 10-year distribution. We are hoping to take our full $6 million all in the first year. The state is continuing to change the date that those funds will be available to us. There is a 10-year plan that must be submitted to the state for what we're going to do with those funds. It also requires a facilities assessment. And you may remember, it was last October that Dr. Boucher was here and he presented the 10-year facilities plan. So our timing was impeccable for that, because it identified, it's not a plan for what we're going to do about it, but it identified the weaknesses in each one of our buildings. So now the board has the tools to work with Mr. Doolin and the community on putting together that 10-year plan based on what we've already identified as some of the weaknesses in our buildings. So there will be public meetings and the public is invited. There'll be surveys that go out that, for recommendations. But just remember, the $6 million is limited to student-occupied buildings. So it has to be under the roof of the building and be used for educational purposes. Even though the gym floor is within the confines of the roof of a student-occupied building, the gym floor cannot be refinished with these funds. So there are a lot of strings attached to it, but we will ask for all of your assistance as we put together that 10-year plan. I believe Mr. Doolin participates in another training this coming Thursday that still is talking about the template that the state is going to require from us. And then after the template goes in, that's when we'll bring together a community committee that says, where do we spend $6 million? And so watch for those kinds of things to happen for us. So, and the next one after that, I hate ending this way. National School Lunch establishes minimums that have to be paid. And unfortunately, we've been riding along a little while, and this year we have to increase both adult prices. We knew that in early, mid-May, we knew that, and so that increase has been published. We learned last week that the National School Lunch Program is also requiring an increase in student prices. So there will be another public hearing at our July meeting for the public to comment on those fee increases, and we can explain exactly why they're calculated the way that they are. Rachel's done a great job in putting together the paperwork for me, so if anybody wants to see the lovely calculations that go into how we determine why that 15 cents is there, I'm happy to share that with you. But I do want to make everybody aware that both student and adult prices will be going up next year for breakfast and lunch. Should be one more slide. And I didn't get the hook. Yet.
Thank you, Barb. Are there any questions from the panel or the audience?
Does that be questions or can it be comments?
So you can go ahead and comment.
Okay. Well, I'd have to start with a question. I have no idea whose zone I am now in. Absolutely no idea, or I would start with that. Nancy will explain it to me later. For however long that I have done this and been involved in all of the budget and all of that stuff, that was the clearest, most concise way that I have heard it done. So nice job. For real, that made sense whether you're involved in education or no.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
so,
I'm glad you feel that way.
yeah, that was.
I worked hard to make it be that way.
One question that
Yes.
I had, I think I know the answer to, but the kindergarten, the divisor for that is 40.
Because it's
Halftime, that's what
Yes.
I thought.
Great question. I should have addressed that. It's not that they think 40 students will be in one class. They think that they will only fund half-day kindergarten. So it's 20 kindergarten students, but only half of the day. So great question. Thank you. I should have clarified that. Oh, come on. You can't take me off the stage yet. Somebody's got to have a question.
They had some.
I know.
So a few slides ago, when we were referencing how many teachers we had in each one of those, there was some in there with 0.5. Are we having half teachers in those spots, or why is there a 0.5?
Because they're funded federally.
Okay.
And we do have 2 positions that we share with a neighboring district. Our occupational therapist is half here, half AED, and also our school nurse that will be teaching CTE courses will be half Weezer, half AED. So yes, great question.
You're too thorough.
Very well done, Barb.
Okay.
All right, well, seeing that we have no further public comments, I'm going to go ahead and close public comments at this time, and we will move into our consideration, our action item, consideration of adopting the fiscal year 25 budget as presented by Barb.
I move that we adopt the fiscal year 25 budget as proposed by Barb. I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. It is unanimous. And that closes our public hearing section. Now into the main section of our school board. Mr. Superintendent, would you give us our report?
I'll be glad to, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board. First, I'd like to introduce our new technology director, Mr. Sisto Zabala. And secondly, I don't have a lot of things because it's going to be quite a long meeting, but just want to bring up to date on a few things. The car raffle was up to $14,100 with 175 supporters. As of today, all admin are off contract except your academic achievement officer, who's here to talk to us tonight a little bit. Summer school is in full effect. The Fiddle Fest kicks off 17 June, 22 June. And I know you've been out there, it's already marked with flags for the campers, and Marcy's been out there watering and setting up some cones and some caution tape, things of that nature. And last but not least, like Bart mentioned and you saw today, the first week of July, we'll be doing some concrete work over at the middle school. So again, summer school will still be going on, but we'll quarantine those areas off. So should be able to, when they come back to school, it's a new concrete and less dangerous area. So that's all I have. Some few questions.
We
I want
appreciate
to make a comment. I drove up by the Institute and the trees and stuff that were taken down. That looks great. Really, really looks good. As far as I'm concerned.
Thank you for taking the time to have us walk around. Not just for the middle school, that was eye-opening to see the cracks in the concrete over there and the hazard that it was. I'm glad to hear that we're taking care of it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that. Administrator reports, do we have any, you guys read on them, so any questions on those? No? Good. Well, that resolves our report section there. Moving into the consent agenda then. Good. Approval minutes of the prior meetings. We've had 2 of them on there. Any questions about those? Now, Kyla, correct me, on this consent agenda, do I need a motion for every single one of these, or do we wait till the end?
Just wait till the end.
Perfect.
And just, yeah, move the C and D.
Yes, correct. Does anything need to be corrected on the current meeting agenda? Superintendent?
Motion.
Barb?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, you
you're
did?
going to C and D to the executive session.
Yes, yes.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. And financial reports.
Oh my goodness, I love myself over here. No wonder, I kept looking at that thinking, what's not, oh, got it. Things are looking well, and guess what? The checking accounts are not balanced this month. I got that $8 corrected. We received our May 15th payment, and as Barb was just explaining to you, we are a little bit ahead of the game, but this does have to last us quite a bit, so don't look at that fund, the LGIP, and think it's great. We're gonna expend some of that. I don't think there was anything that I thought that was glaringly out of whack for you. Budget lines are all doing well. I will tell you our non-student occupied, we had a lot of expenses in that, and you saw some of that. Our non-student occupied would also be the Glen House. So any expenditures that we have done over the Glen House also comes out of this fund here. So we have to track those separately. So unless you have any questions for me, I know that we had one on a check, but we've got that. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you, Kyla.
Yeah.
And then approval of payment of bills. Looks good. Any questions about the approval of payment of bills? On that note,
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
thank you. That motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
citizen comments. Any applications for
We didn't receive any citizen comments, okay. WEA comment? Do we have a WEA representative?
We do. And she thinks she knows whose zone she's in. But she's not sure. But I think his first name would be John.
There you go.
That narrows it down.
Doesn't it? I know, we know who it's not. Sort of. Okay, I have comments. And they're on my phone. So Nicole could not be here. And she misses very, very, very few board meetings, as I'm sure that you have noticed. If we had ADA based on Nicole, holy cow. Support units coming out the year. So I am Rebecca Gonzalez from one of the Mr. John zone represented zones or whatever. I have some things that I need to say representing WEA members, and we always want to be very, very clear while we negotiate on behalf of the entire district staff. WEA really does represent the concerns and the comments and the issues and the thank yous and the whatever of specifically of WEA members. I don't know that that's always super clear to everybody. Nicole makes it very clear. I don't know that it's always clearly received. First and foremost, we really wanted to thank you for formally giving us time on the agenda this year and not making that a public comment thing, because there wasn't always a whole lot of time to do that, and especially for including us in the policy review process, especially having to do with personnel. That was big, and as every single one of you knows, you know that I read every single one of those because I sent you copious notes and comments and all of that. So really, that was one more thing to do, but it was a really, really, really important thing to do, and it was really nice to be included in that. We wanted to Nicole, I made Nicole a verb. We wanted to echo what Nicole had said earlier about the thank you for the bonuses. I know that those were received today. With the extra funds from the state, those coming back to not only certified but also classified, who just need all of that possible. We wanted to let you know that we appreciated the really almost frighteningly smooth negotiations process that went very quickly. I will tell you that there are still some members, especially, who wonder why our salaries are not a bit more competitive with surrounding districts, and as you know, every year we lose really great talented people to other districts, and sometimes that is the sole reason why. So there was some discussion about that when we ratified contracts. Overall, it was a really positive year despite so many changes. I don't know if you remember, but the beginning of the school year feels like 6 years ago to me. We had changes in staff and admin, district building everywhere, new curricula, changes in the operating system, the LMS, learning management system, to get infinite campusness of the year and all of that. We know that we will have some similar, please Lord, not a new LMS again, and not a new ELA curriculum, and not all of that, but we know we'll have some new staff, obviously, we'll have some new administrative situations and all that, so we know we have changes ahead. This is me because I had to get sappy. Our community is growing and it's changing, and we have to be ready to change with it, and I'm saying that after 29 years of doing this, while retaining what really makes Weiser special, and that's the examples of the Wolverine way that we see every single day at every single level. So we certainly need to change and reflect changes and that stuff, but we also have to retain what makes us special and unique. And the last thing, before I get the hook that Barb didn't get, Nicole and I, and she is not here, but I did run this by her, would like the board to know that we have resigned as co-presidents of WEA. We were trying to remember how many years it has been. We were around 6, I think, this time around that we have done that. And we are looking forward to some new blood leading the WEA next year and beyond, and all of that. We need some new, some young, some unmarried and don't have kids and grandkids and all of that, type people to step up and lead, because we old folks have led and we're tired. So we've now retired because we're tired. Boom, boom, boom. You're welcome. Anyway, that is as much as I've got for you, unless anybody has a question or any of that.
Do you know who the new ones will be? Has that been chosen?
We were a skosh busy there at the end of the school year.
Uh-huh.
And so we did not have elections we did not run elections for next year's leadership before the end of this school year. So Nicole and I effectively, I mean, if there's anything that comes up, please don't let there be anything that comes up over there. But if there were to be hypothetically anything that came up over the summer, she and I are still co-presidents until really early in the school year next year, like maybe one of those contract days at the beginning of the year, at the end of it, where we will have a meeting and run elections. We did make crystal clear at the ratification meeting that we are done. That was not an if no one else, we are done. So start looking inside and finding that inner leader that you know you want to be. Nobody jumped up and said, pick me, pick me. But nobody made a run for
Time to
that.
process.
And I'm going to spend the summer praying because I'm done. So either we step up or we don't have an
Mr. Chairman,
association.
if I could, I want to say thank you for your hard work, you and Nicole. We had some pretty good great conversations those several months in a row, and that's what communication, that's what it's all about. And so my hat's off to you and Nicole and your team. Thank you for what you've done for the district and us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to our action items. And it looks like the first one on there is to move to executive session. Get a motion to,
Make a motion that we go into executive session for item code 74-2068 for personnel matter. I second that.
motion has been made and seconded.
We need to do a voice vote. So, John?
Yes.
Andrea, yes.
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 Okay, we are in executive session and it is 6:26. If everyone in the audience would just step out for a little bit, we'll call you back in.
Thank you for bearing with us as we went through executive session. I'd be really entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we accept the hiring of Colleen C. as a sixth grade teacher, and then the following resignations. John DeWitt as the Park School Counselor, Melissa Reed, the high school teacher, Liz Thompson, high school teacher, Brooke Winston, Park School, and Adolfo Cardenas, middle school.
Second it.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye. The
motion has been approved unanimously. That brings us to section C on our action item. Consider first reading of policies. The list is long there. 5725 through 5830E1.
He's going there. Did you say there's no
It's in the agenda. I'm just not sure what you said.
Okay, I'll just move that we consider the first reading of policies 5725 through 5830E1
move them to the second.
And move them to
To
the second?
yes. We'll do second reading next. Next.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded to move these policies from first reading to second reading. All in favor? Aye. It's unanimous. Brings us to D, consider a second reading of policies 5350 through 5710. If you find those numbers overlap, it's because they do. There's a whole bunch of numbers.
So we're just making a motion to, that those are, approve the,
Adopt them.
adopt them. Okay. I move that we adopt policies 5350 through 5710 as stated on the agenda.
Second it.
Motion has been made and seconded to adopt the second reading of policies 5350 to 5710. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous, Kyle.
Thank you.
We are on to E on our action items. Consider an early graduation for 2 students in August and December.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we have the opportunity to do exactly what you just said. One in August after summer school and one in December. The one in December is joining the military, so she's finishing up, she's going to join the service. So, the one in August just wants to get done with school, she can continue raising her family and going to go into nursing school. So if you want to approve these. So it's a great opportunity. Drew, Chris was already blessed off on it. Counselors, high school blessed off on it, so it's a great opportunity for these students, 2 students.
Did you want to tell them?
Yeah.
Can we not read
Correct
them?
me on this, we're.
Can you say the name? No.
Can't say the name.
Yeah. I'll make a motion that we,
Hold on.
oh, I,
I should move this away from her before she gets the names.
It was pressing.
Sounds pretty good. Where's the straw? Forget. Yeah, awesome.
I would say, I'd like to make a motion instead of the early graduation for the 2 students, one in August of '24 and one in December of '24. With required effort to make that happen.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve early graduation for these 2 students. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. And now we have an opportunity to consider signing a lease agreement for 21 acres.
Yes,
Or
Mr.
21 acres, I assume.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, you know that land across from the high school. We have another opportunity to let a Weiser graduate and then a U of I graduate farm that land. And with your approval, just sign this lease. He'll be able to farm that land, 21 acres. And annually, he'll give write us a check for the 21 acres and they continue to, it'll be a year-to-year contract. And we like what he's doing, we like what we're doing, we continue on with the contract.
Is this his first year with us?
It is. He just graduated from U of I.
And did he approach us or did we approach him?
I think it was a combination of, it was similar, I think. We saw it and knew it. And
Do we know what the crop is?
it's an alfalfa or hay of some type.
Trinicating?
What? That's it.
Trinicating?
It's that. What the kid?
does that change your opinion on whether or not you're going to? I'm allergic to alfalfa, so we're not.
Well,
Just curious.
If
I
you
just wonder
remember-
what, I mean,
It was just sitting there at the end.
crazy things that could be grown, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's got
Just
it,
was curious.
I think it's on there.
it's in
Well,
the,
I agree, that's very nice.
Down there.
it's in the lease to keep the,
Yes, keep it up, keep it up. Weeds,
yeah.
irrigated, things of that nature.
What happens if that doesn't happen?
So we-
They don't just
Yeah,
win your
we-
contract, he finds a new place to farm.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty clear.
So, why does it say, oh, 21 farmable acres, but it's 22.89 total? Gotcha.
Those concrete culverts are kind of hard to farm.
Yeah. The ditches.
Ditches,
I make a motion to consider leasing the vacant lot, the 21 acres as agreement states.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded to lease this vacant lot to this young gentleman. All those in favor?
Alright.
Aye. Unanimous. Wonderful.
My life is
We're on to H, consider food service account.
No, consider leasing the.
Thank you, G, thank you. Consider
There's
leasing
another
the
lease
vacant
we
lot.
have to
Yeah.
get done.
I'm trying, yeah. I saw leasing, and I thought we were already past that, right? Consider leasing the vacant lot behind the cannery.
And Mr. Chairman, just another opportunity, the cannery. This gentleman wants to lease behind it, to continue, or to be able to park towed vehicles, things of that nature. And he's gonna put up 2 gates, one on this side of the cannery, one on this side of the cannery, so nobody can get back in there, except maintenance guys and us if need be. But it won't restrict anything from us, but it'll be, he'll pay us once a month. It's in there how much he'll pay us. And it's just a great opportunity for both parties.
What, so it's right now just weeds?
It's not, it's controlled weeds because of this patron, yes ma'am.
Oh,
There's nothing there, no, it's nothing there.
that's what I mean.
Never has been.
Currently, it's just
No,
kind of an empty.
It's just there, it's just a lot.
And they'll put a fence.
2 fences, just 2 gates, 2 gates.
These gates, are they going to have fire access for them, fire department having access to the backside of that property for any reason that they need to be back there since it is fully fenced? Or are we going to have to be calling out our, go ahead.
We'll have a key. We can make sure that the fire department gets a key. Yeah, absolutely.
And you'll see in the contract, if he does leave us, the gates will stay.
Oh, so he's putting up gates on our behalf.
Well, as long as he maintains good order of discipline with us, if you will, we'll maintain a good contract with him. So that we said if he wants to.
He has really cleaned that lot up too.
He really has, yes,
I
sir.
was up there today, just to go by and look. I was there a couple of weeks ago, it looked like. And, by the day, it was cleaned up, it looked good, yeah. Maybe he'll keep it that way.
How did you come up with the grant?
Let's state it up. Because it's nothing now, and I don't want to drain him, and we're not going to get rich off of a lot, so I just thought that'd be good.
Yes.
You want to add a couple more bucks to it?
I would have, but it's fine. It seems really low, but you're being very kind.
It helps both of us.
That's
I
right.
guess.
And the gate, I mean, the gates themselves are going
Yeah.
to be worth a lot, right?
Yeah, that's a big expense, so that's nice.
But again, it goes in effect 1 July if you see fit.
Any other questions? I would entertain a motion. Yeah.
I move that Agreed to signing the lease for the, the lease, yes, for the vacant lot behind the cannery.
I'll second that.
Good job.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah.
From that seat.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous, Kyla.
Thank you.
Now, we're on to considering the food service account new signatories.
Yeah, it's, Mr. Chairman, if I could, it's, Misty left, Rachel took her position, and Beth Quinton now is the assistant to Rachel. And they need to both be on the accounts of the bank. So it's just approving their new signature blocks and taking the old ones off.
I'll make a motion. Consider the food service account changes for the new signatures to keep it up to date with the current units.
Second that.
Motion has been made and seconded to consider new signatories for the food service account. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. And on to I. That's words. Consider increase to the meal prices in the food services. Now, are we only considering the adults?
Yes.
Because the kids will be on the next.
Yes,
It
it's
has
not been published.
Thank you. So it's the 25 cents for the adult.
It is 20 cents for breakfast and 25 cents for lunch.
7.5 and 5.3 increase. So that's why it comes before 5% in the product.
Question on that meal price increase. Does that also include secondary lunches?
That is the second price, yes.
Okay.
So, and that's the reason that we have to publish it, because adult prices are not legally required to be published, but because it does also affect that second meal price for students, that's why it has to be published.
Okay.
And we have to accept that.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions? Motion whenever.
Move that we increase the meal prices in food services for adults.
Motion has been made and seconded to consider the increase to the meal prices in food services for the adults. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. And on that note, that completes our action items. Yes. We do have cookies. So do we want to do that before we ask if there's any future agenda items we want for discussion?
No, those just asked.
This is ask.
And then our cookie thing.
Is there anything that you guys want on future agendas?
Well, at this time,
No, we good?
Yeah.
Okay. The answer is no on that. Any communication and information from?
Yes, sir. Got 3 pieces. So we just take it to.
Yeah,
Mr. Price.
if you would. She has not worn out her voice
Yes, sir.
enough yet today.
Dear Ally Carnick Scholarship Sponsor Committee, thank you so much for sponsoring the scholarship and for choosing me as a recipient. I will be attending BSU this fall to become an elementary teacher. The scholarship has reduced my financial stress immensely. I look forward to this next chapter of my life and to eventually returning to as a teacher. I appreciate your support and listening. Thank you again. Sincerely, Kendall Writers.
Kendall Writers.
Kendall Writers. Can we hold her to that?
Hey, you said.
You said.
Dear Weezer School Board, thank you for the nice plaque and the check at the retirement dinner. I have enjoyed my time working at the high school, but I'm looking forward to retirement. Thank you, Susan Alice. Weezer School District Board of Directors, I am writing this letter to express my appreciation for your enthusiastic support of our students at Indian Head Academy. Your presence at our graduation ceremonies this school year has shown our students that you value them and giving your time to recognize their accomplishments. This has had a huge impact on our students. Your support expresses the importance of giving a little more to students who have had some struggles graduation. Thank you for supporting our program and the work that we do and will continue to do for our students. Sincerely, Jeff Church, lead teacher in Midland Academy. I do enjoy those graduations and hearing
Yeah,
from
they're
those students.
Good? Good?
I will make the motion that we adjourn our
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
there are cookies, just open that
Cookies
slide
just
door,
open the
there's some in
slider.
there.
Please join us for those, please.